Hey ya, this is Taya. Welcome you to another episode of Intentional Desires, where we talk about all topics on this journey that we call life. So today we're going to get into another diary episode. And this one is about grief. Um, so I wonder, do you ever get over grief? Or is it something that you just learn to live with and deal with? So for example, as I'm recording this, I'm a little sad, not depressed, not angry, not hurt, but a little sad. Today, as we record this, um, I'm in Houston, and I wish that I could have been in Alabama as they are laying one of my uncles to rest. And it's very sad that one, I couldn't be there. It's very emotional. And two, that it seems to be a constant thing as an adult. I don't remember so much of this happening when I was a kid, but I guess that means we had a good long run. So in the last 3 years, I have lost about four major people in my life. And you're not taught how to deal with grief. You know, they say there are 7 stages, right? But when do you go through these 7 stages? And how are you supposed to go through these 7 stages? Is there a blueprint on what to do? And is it okay to still be sad about it 10 years from now when I think about it? And is it scary? Because it's scary to go through grief, especially about like losing a person in your life, right? But grief, you can have grief about so many different things. You can have grief about loss of a car, loss of things that you wanted to do in life that you didn't, situations, times, events, you know? And nobody tells you how to deal with that. Am I supposed to cry? Am I supposed to scream? Am I supposed to yell? Are they all going to come at once? What are the emotions that I have to deal with to get through this? Why is it harder to deal with some aspects of grief than the other? Some events are harder, or you're more grief stricken with certain events. Why is grief a shocker? Why do most people tell you, oh girl, just get over it? Oh man, it's fine, you'll get past it. Why are you not allowed to grieve for however long you want? Why does it seem like it's a time span you should just get over it? Why does grief even exist? Why am I sad about something that I lost? You know what I mean? People, I understand. Why am I sad about people like that? My uncle is gone. My uncle is a part of who I am. And he was there when I was born. As a matter of fact, my other uncle, who passed away 2 years ago, was also a part of who I am. My biological dad passed away last year, and my best friend passed away on the anniversary of my uncle from 2 years ago. And all of this stuff has run together, right? And so, how do you deal with all that? Because you still have to get up and go on in life. You still have to get up and go to work, because bereavements only last 3 days, and that's if they're your immediate family, right? Nobody's paying you to cry. Nobody's paying you to be emotional. Nobody tells you, hey, maybe you might want to go sit with your emotions and kind of just feel them, kind of go talk to somebody, right? Survivor's guilt, for like the death of something, death of a pet, death of a loved one, you know? And grief can hit you again, like, especially if you haven't dealt with whatever emotions you haven't. Because sometimes you're angry. You know what I mean? Like, I was angry at myself because I didn't know a couple of things that were going on with my family. And that's because I live in Texas and they live other places. Like, they still live in New York, or like this particular uncle lives in Alabama. And I moved away, and it was just to start my life and to, you know, kind of get things going with me. I wanted to be super successful and to give my kids a better life, right? Because I didn't feel like I could raise my kids in New York. Not that I couldn't raise them, but I just wanted better for them, and I thought moving out of state was a little bit better because New York City is great, and I grew up in New York City. It made me tough. It taught me a lot of things, but I wanted a gentler side for my kids. I wanted to be able to, what I didn't think I would be able to afford was a house in New York. I wanted to be able to afford that here or outside of New York, because New York is pretty expensive. Well, everywhere's pretty expensive now, but at the time, New York was uber expensive for what we thought and our limiting beliefs, right? So, and everybody's just living their lives trying to do the best that they can. So I kind of got disconnected, and I didn't know like they were having health issues or whatever. And so I was angry with myself, like when my first uncle died, because it was just out of nowhere. And I was just like, I love my uncle. What do you mean he just died? And I had actually, you know, thought about him and was like, I need to call my uncle. I need to get in contact with my uncle. And um, like my biological dad, my uncle was always great at getting everybody connected, right? Because that was just his thing. He would always have barbecues, parties, come to this thing in the park. Um, he would all try to get us together. And that was my uncle's thing. My Uncle Butch that was his thing. So I have been disconnected, like, from my family or whatever. And when he passed away, I was so sad, right? I was so angry. And I was angry with myself because I didn't know what was going on with my uncle. And so it hurt, but it hurt because I didn't do what I was supposed to. And nobody taught me about dealing with that, right? Because they teach you it's everybody else's fault. Well, I was actually happy at the same time, which is, how can you be angry, sad, and happy all at the same time? But you can. And I was happy because it got all of us back connected, right? So when my uncle passed away, we all band together and, you know, was there for his funeral. I made sure I had that trip to New York. I got to see my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, and we're all talking, you know. We were all laughing and joking, even though it was a sad event because he had transitioned. But it also connected me back to my biological dad, who I wasn't angry with him, but we were all just living life. Like I said, he could do the best that he could, and he thought I wasn't talking to him, and I was just like, well, he's not coming around, and you know, and I was saddened about that. But I got to reconnect with him for a good amount of time. I even got to take over his healthcare a little bit, and we got to share some, stories and some memories of stuff that I didn't know about or that I didn't remember because I was a kid. And kids, they don't know anything. They experience grief. I just don't think at the same levels as an adult does because we have more awareness of time and, that time and that concept. But it connected me back to him, which was happy. And then I kind of lost him. Um, well, I shouldn't say kinda. I did. He passed away, and that was sad, and that was devastating. And it was grief stricken. Like I know, as they were lowering my dad down in that box, or his body in that box, he wasn't in there, right? Because the spirit, at least in my own belief, does not go into that box. It's, you're always forever carrying them with you because they're a piece of you. But I was so sad about that, and I just had to keep going. Like, I had to get back to work. Like, I had to rush back to work, and I didn't get to deal with any of those emotions. And so I just kept trucking, just kept trucking, just kept trucking. And then, bam, the anniversary of my uncle's death comes, and I get hit again because my best friend Kia passes away. And I had been having like a weird feeling that whole day, and I was upset, and I was hurt, and I was devastated. And I I get a phone call from her sister telling me that she had passed. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, she's gotta be lying. You cannot, right? And so she says it again, and it hits. And I was expecting to hear from Kia because she knew that was the anniversary of my uncle's death, and we were gonna talk about it. And we had talked to each other. And when I tell you I love my best friend, I love that girl. Today would be one of the days I would pick up the phone and call her. I actually just talked to her about this relationship that I'm currently in, and she would be able to clarify some mess in a minute for me. And she was like, girl, that man loves you. He don't have to say, you may not think so, but his actions show you. And I was like, girl, whatever. And so we were supposed to, like I said, talk about my uncle's death and all of that other stuff. And I had told her, I love you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never came. And I was just so all over the place because I was like, why does this keep happening? And so I was angry. And I was like, well, I just got to keep living life, right? Because you don't get bereavement for your best friend who's like your sister. You don't. Because she's not, quote unquote, immediate family. Even though she was. She's my son's godfather. And she was a stand-in godmother for the rest of my kids, because she's amazing like that. And then here comes September, right? And well, let me back up a little bit. Here comes August, and we're getting texts that my uncle's in and out of the hospital, and I'm now being hit with some other aspects of grief, because I was making plans to go see my uncle, because I, with this economy, being a single mom, I don't have the funds. Doesn't matter how hard I work, I just don't have the funds to just get up and take a trip, right? But I was grieving because I was like, I need to see my uncle, I need to see my uncle, I need to see my uncle. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get there. So I was a little upset about that. And then I get a text saying that he was transitioning. That was the most devastating thing ever. And so now we're back to grief and how do you handle it? Because, like I said, you're not taught that. So you're all over the place. But I think grief comes to show you some things, to show you where you're lacking. So for me, it's my vulnerability, because like I said, I don't let people in. And so it's teaching me that I need to, and I need to get closer to people while they're still here, and let them in on stuff I would never let people in on. So with that being said, guys, learn to let people in, learn to be vulnerable, learn that grief is not to hurt you, and it's okay to have grief and think you've gotten over it, and then years down the line it may come back up. Just learn that it's a process and not a destination. It's a journey. It's definitely a journey. And so we'll wrap up this episode of Intentional Desires. Until next time.